Nobody asked me to write enjoy on the pouches. It wasn't in the supply manual. It wasn't a regulation. Wasn't a tradition handed down from some grizzled sergeant who'd done it before me. It was just something I started doing in my third year, running the forward supply depot at Harkin Station. A Tuesday, I think. Nothing particular about it. Just a slow morning and a marker in my breast pocket and 600 foil ration pouches sitting in a crate, waiting to go out to 3rd and 7th Company before they pushed into the Greyveld corridor. I wrote it small, in the bottom right corner of the foil. Enjoy. That was all. I don't know why. The ration was reconstituted protein paste with a rice composite and a vitamin gel packet. Not a meal anyone was going to enjoy in any real sense. It was fuel. It tasted like salted paste and smelled like the inside of a recycled canteen, but I wrote it anyway. And I kept writing it. Every batch, every pouch for 11 years. By the time the VETH came, I'd written it on somewhere in the range of 4 million individual ration packs. Nobody noticed. That's the honest truth. Not command. Not the soldiers. Not the inspection teams that came through Harkin twice a year and checked dates and caloric density and seal integrity. Nobody ever mentioned it to me. I figured it was the kind of thing people saw and didn't register. The way you stop seeing the paint on a wall you walk past every day. The VETH noticed. I didn't know that at first. The VETH came in the way everyone always said they would. Calm, overwhelming, and very organized. They didn't land warships. They sent catalogers first. Slim gray vessels that settled over our installations like a hand laid flat on a table. And from them came the survey teams, moving through our spaces with portable imaging rigs and specimen containers, and the particular focused patients, beings who were documenting rather than fighting. Our command called it an invasion. The VETH called it a preliminary resource assessment. The distinction, they seemed to feel, was important. For 3 weeks, nothing happened except documentation. They walked our corridors, photographed our equipment, took samples from our mess halls and our water processing and our munitions stores. They were polite about it, in the way a bank auditor is polite. Thorough and disinterested and not particularly curious about your feelings on the matter. Kept running the depot. What else was I going to do? Rations still needed packing. 3rd Company still needed feeding. I kept writing enjoy on the pouches. On the 23rd day, one of the VETH catalogers came to my supply bay. She was the one they called Interpreter Vethis Sorn. She had better low-frequency hearing than most of her team and had been the point of contact. Most of our command's reluctant conversations with the survey leadership. She came alone, which I hadn't seen them do before. She stood at the door of the bay and waited until I looked up from the packing table. She was holding one of my pouches. She had it gripped with 2 fingers at the corner, the way you'd hold something you weren't sure about. Gingerly, with a slight forward tilt, if presenting evidence. She said, in the careful flat translation her unit produced, this marking, in the lower right corner, we have logged it across 4.1 million individual units. It is present on every food provision packet originating from this facility over an 11-year period. We require its classification. I looked at the pouch, I looked at her. It says enjoy, I said. She waited. It means, I thought about it. It means I hope you like it. I hope it's good for you. I hope the eating of it is a pleasant experience. Interpreter Vethis Sorn was quiet for a long time. Her imaging rig was running. I could see the small indicator light pulsing at her collar, recording everything. The soldiers who received this provision, she said, they are unknown to you. Most of them, yes. You do not know whether they survive the engagements following the meal. No. You do not receive acknowledgement of this marking. No. You derive no material benefit from the inclusion of this marking. No. And yet you have included it, she said, on 4.1 million individual units. 4.1 million, give or take, I said. I don't keep a running count. She stood very still. I noticed her imaging rig had not moved since she'd begun her questions. Normally, those rigs panned constantly, cataloging, sweeping, restless. This one was pointed straight at the packing table where I'd been working. At the open crate of finished pouches. At the marker lying across the lip of the crate, where I'd set it down. In the weeks since they'd arrived, I'd gotten moderately good at reading the VETH for small signals. A particular arrangement of the secondary eyelid, a tension in the upper jaw hinge, Interpreter Vethis Sorn had both right now, which I had come to understand, meant something she was processing was not resolving cleanly against her existing model. This is not an efficient use of your time, she said. It came out less like a judgment and more like a question that had arrived in the wrong grammatical form. Probably not, I said, but it's not much time either. 20 seconds a crate. She looked at the pouch again. Then she put it in her specimen container. Carefully, I noticed, the way you'd place something that had changed category on you. And she left. I went back to packing. I had 800 more pouches to do before end of shift. 3 days later, the cataloging operations stopped. Not scaled back, stopped. The gray survey vessels lifted and held position in the upper atmosphere, and the VETH survey leadership requested a formal conversation with our command structure. Not an assessment meeting. A conversation. The distinction, they indicated, was important. I wasn't in that meeting. Supply quartermasters don't attend first contact diplomatic sessions. I spent those 2 hours doing what I always did. Packing the morning batch, checking seal dates, logging crate numbers into the manifold. The gray vessels were still visible through the bay's high windows, sitting in the sky like something that hadn't decided yet what it was going to do. I didn't look at them much. The pouches needed writing. I got the account later from Colonel Harath, who was in the room, and who told me the story with the particular expression of a person who has witnessed something they are still in the process of classifying. Interpreter Vethis Sorn opened the meeting by placing one of my foil pouches on the table. The VETH survey leadership, she explained, had built their assessment on a core behavioral premise: that humanity was a resource extraction species operating on competitive maximization logic, as virtually every spacefaring species documented in their catalogs had proven to be. Species that reached this technological level did so by consuming resources, including other beings, with maximal efficiency. The model had a perfect predictive record across 41 prior assessments. The foil pouch did not fit the model. A source extraction species operating on competitive maximization logic did not write enjoy on the individual food units issued to unknown soldiers before sending them into lethal engagements. There was no logical mechanism by which that behavior produced advantage for the individual forming it. It was not status signaling. The marking was too small to be reliably noticed. It was not a morale regulation program. It had never been ordered or institutionalized. It was one person, alone, writing a small word on 4 million pouches because they felt, for reasons the model had no category for, that strangers deserved to know someone hoped their meal was good. The VETH had spent the 3 days since Interpreter Vethis Sorn's visit running the behavior through every analytical framework in their assessment catalog. It did not fit any of them. The closest approximation, she said, was a behavior pattern observed in a small number of deeply social non-spacefaring species, typically in early development commune structures, a kind of surplus generosity, care extended beyond the bounds of reciprocity or kinship into the anonymous commons. But those species did not build warships. They did not reach the stars. Their entire invasion logic was built on a premise humanity had apparently never received the instruction manual for. The formal resource assessment was suspended. Indefinitely, they needed to rerun their models. Colonel Harath told me. The VETH survey commander's last statement in the meeting was that they would require significant additional time to reclassify humanity into a behavioral category for which they currently had no designation. She told me this in my supply bay, standing in roughly the spot where Interpreter Vethis Sorn had stood 6 days earlier. She looked at the packing table. She looked at me. You kept writing it, she said, while they were here. Rations still needed packing, I said. She picked up one of the finished pouches and turned it over. Read the corner. Set it down. She didn't say anything else, neither did I. I had 600 more to do. I picked up the marker.